So what happens when one of the best RPG designers in the industry get their hands on the Star Wars license? In this week's episode, we'll be taking a look at Kotor, or better known as Knights of the Old Republic. Kotor was released in 2003 by BioWare Entertainment, with LucasArts being their publisher. Knights of the Old Republic is set 4,000 years before the events of the movies, giving BioWare a lot of freedom when designing their game. The Jedi, for example, are a lot more prominent. There are loads of new races, and perhaps best of all, no Gungans. Actually, screw that. I like Jar Jar, and I like the Phantom Menace, and I don't care what anyone says. You start the game by waking up on a Star Cruiser, either as a soldier, a scout or a scoundrel. These three classes give you your general role. For example, a soldier can wear heavier armor and is more used to rifles, while a scoundrel is better at charming his way out of situations and using stealth. As is almost always the case in BioWare games, you can play as a male or a female character. Although there is no big difference between the two, it does allow you to romance other crew members. Gameplay-wise, it was something I had never seen before. As soon as you run across a hostile, the game would freeze and give you plenty of time to pick your skills and form a strategy. Afterwards, your character would then fight the enemy for you. Kotor uses a mostly dice-based system. That means that behind the scenes, the computer is rolling percentages to see if you hit, miss or block your enemy. The stronger you get, the more likely it is you'll hit them. But combat is only one side of the game. Dialogue and diplomacy is just as important. Often you can't just shoot or slice your way through the enemy, but instead you'll have to talk or persuade someone. This is where the game truly shines for me. There is so much story and so much dialogue to find. It grabs your attention and makes the world seem more believable. Plus, Kotor has a light/dark mechanic, so you can decide to either help out the poor alien who's being bullied by kids, or instead, join in.
Get out of here, you goggle-eyed freak! You're too ugly for the upper city. Ah! Run for it!
As you level, you gain more and more experience, which you can then spend on upgrading your characters. I never was a big fan of rifles, so I would specialize in using pistols or melee weapons, as well as charisma, which would then unlock new dialogue options when talking to people. So, how's the story? Coming from an age where BioWare's writing was still heralded as some of the best in the industry, it would come as no surprise that Knights of the Old Republic had a fantastic story. Yeah, I don't think it's a spoiler when I tell you that your main nemesis in this game is the Sith. In fact, they're introduced about 2 minutes into the game. Led by Dark Malak, the Sith are growing in strength and have become a threat to the galaxy. It is up to you and your crew to put a stop to him. You travel from planet to planet, doing missions and gathering allies, with the purpose of sending the Sith back to unexplored space with their tail between their legs. Still being a scrub at the time, I'd never really touched an RPG before. At first I couldn't get into it. I wanted to grab a blaster and start shooting bad guys. It would be a few years later before I picked the game up again, ready to give it a second try. And holy gosh darn George Lucas on a bike did I fall in love with it. So, now you've done all the planets, fought every foe that came your way, battled your way through the legions of Sith, and then it happens. I won't spoil it for you, but the last dialogue in the game with Malak reveals something which will blow your mind. It took me and many other gamers by complete surprise, and it only made the game better for it. I remember playing it with my brother and our jaws just dropped to the ground. In fact, it's one of the most memorable endings to any game I can think of. Your crew consists of fun and interesting characters. I like talking to all of them, from the young and naive Mission Vow to the sarcastic HK-47.
There are a lot of politicians on Coruscant, Master. I could spend decades slaughtering them and still not make a dent.
I actually really enjoyed taking Karth and Kendrus with me on missions because of their differences. Karth is the perfect soldier. He goes to war because he knows it's the right thing to do. Kendrus, on the other hand, is a Mandalorian who fights for glory and honor. The two philosophies don't mix well, and they're often discussing it, both raising some interesting points to help you see it their way. If you enjoy story in video games, then Knights of the Old Republic is a must-play. From there on, we move on to the graphics. As you can see, the game looks aged, and although not an ugly game by any means, it didn't stand the test of time all that well. Although, in all honesty, graphics don't really matter to me when there's lightsabers involved. Tip for any game developer out there: it's lightsabers. Animation wise, I wasn't impressed. As is the case in a lot of BioWare games, their stuff is slow and stiff, but don't let that ruin the game for you. Knights of the Old Republic is a true classic. The story, combined with the fascinating world, makes it an incredible experience, which has stayed with me for years. Now, installing the game was no problem for me, at least via Steam, but you'll be stuck on a small resolution. There is a patch to fix it, but it doesn't work with the Steam game, so sorry guys. Mind you, I had no problem at all playing the game on a lower resolution. I hope that you give Knights of the Old Republic a try, and I hope that you'll enjoy it as much as I have. If you liked or disliked this video, give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and let me know what you thought of the episode in the comment section below. I love to read what you guys have to say. There will be another Did You Play next week, but until then, may the Force be with you.